Hello, hope everybody's doing well. Coming to you from my backyard, and here's what we're going to do right now, something a little different. I'm going to show you some pictures, okay? These pictures are going to be zoomed in, and then they will slowly pan out. In that process, you need to decide what the picture is before it comes to complete focus, okay? So if you've got anybody there at home, you can have a little competition. Try to decide what it is before the picture comes up. There's about 10 to 15 pictures, so each one you can check that out. I will give you the hint that they all deal with ministries that the student ministry has done over the past year. All right, so watch these pictures and see how you do. Okay, so here is our first picture. As it zooms out, see if you can guess what that is. Got to choose what was taking place when this photo was taken. And yes, that's our graduates from Student Sunday graduation. Here's our next one. See if you can guess. And that was a group from Mission Arlington getting ice cream. Here's our third one. Can you choose what it is? And it's a pic from Eckert's. Here's our next one. What's going on in this picture? We are traveling to Arlington, Texas with Van 5 from Mission Arlington. All right, our next one. That one's kind of a giveaway on this one. It's when the group went to play paintball. Okay, this one may be a little harder. Figure out what's going on in this picture. What is that? And this would be one of the upgrade teams. Gotta love the rodent. Right. What's happening here? Looks like going to be Mission Arlington getting ready for worship. All right. Anybody know when this picture was taken? And yes, this is the spring retreat at the YMCA last year. Okay. Who is this in this picture? You recognize Julie. And there's Miss Danette and Julie along with Miss Tilly, who is in charge of Mission Arlington. Okay. Once again, what's happening in this pic? Ah, there it is. AT&T Stadium with one of our teams. Well done. Once again, we see Don. What's going on in this pic? There are all the pillows for going to the apartment complexes. All right, this is not one of my favorite pictures, but here you go. Yep, there's the Chiefs. So this is kind of a was a preview for our Super Bowl bash that we had this past February. All right, here's the next one. What's going on in this pick? You guessed one of our upgrade teams for upgrade. You are correct. Right. Once again, who's in the pick? And what is it for? There's John passing out worship guides for Grad Sunday. And finally, here's our last pick. You can figure this out. I know you see multiple people. What's it for? When was this? This was our gathering before leaving for Mission Arlington. Hope you did well. Just enjoying God's creation this morning. It's beautiful out here. And just want to take you into His Word for a few minutes. But before that, want to remind you about youthgroupathome.com, which is going to be a Youth Group at Home session, which is Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Be sure and check that out, that live streaming this week. Also, watch for another worship video, which we'll be sending out. We know the sound was a little rough on the last one, so we're working on correcting that. So watch for that to come. Also, if you haven't met with your small group online yet, that will be coming. So hopefully this week that will be happening. So watch for that. And finally, if you haven't been in touch with other students within the ministry, I encourage you to do that. And not just your closest friends, but if God brings to mind other students in the group, just contact them. Send them a text, email them, give them a call. Contact them online. Do whatever you can to stay in touch and encourage one another in that. All right. In the book of Jeremiah, you see God using the prophet Jeremiah to tell Jerusalem and the nation of Judah about their sin and their turning against God and the destruction that's about to come. And because of their sin and their failure to repent, God does send destruction. The Babylonians end up coming in and destroying the city of Jerusalem. And in the last chapter, in 52, we see that Zedekiah is the king, and they are surrounded by the Babylonians. Famine enters the land. It's very, very depressing. The armed men, including Zedekiah, end up escaping the city. They get out. They're pursued by the Babylonians. They're captured. Zedekiah is brought before the king of Babylon and King Nebuchadnezzar, and the sons of Zedekiah are slaughtered right in front of him. His eyes are gouged out, and he's put in prison for the rest of his life. Extremely depressing, awful way to end. The temple of Jerusalem, God's temple, is destroyed, and the priests are put to death, and 4,600 people are sent off into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. There's just a few that are left to take care of crops and to take care of the vineyards, and that is it. So then in Lamentations, the book after the book of Jeremiah, you see in the first chapter, Jeremiah is just talking about the nation's sin and how they went against God, and now they are weeping and hurting. And in chapter 2, you see God's wrath against his people because of their sin. And, it's just very depressing. And you may be thinking, okay, why in this difficult time right now are we talking about things that are so depressing and punishment for sin and God's wrath coming down? Well, you get to chapter 3, and Jeremiah says in verse 16, he says, "He has made my teeth," referring to God, "He has made my teeth grind on gravel, and He made me cower in ashes. My soul is bereft of peace. I have forgotten what happiness is." So he is just in a awful place. He's just burdened down with the judgment that came upon his people. He says, "So I say, my endurance has perished, so has my hope from the Lord. Remember my affliction and my wanderings, the wormwood and the gall. My soul continually remembers it and is bowed down within me. And you can just hear the heaviness of his heart and his soul of where Jeremiah is. And then in verse 21, he says this, "But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will hope in him." So you hear in the midst of his suffering, you hear Jeremiah focusing on the truth of who God is. This is like it's like God is like a pool of cool water in a dry and parched desert where there's suffering and everything around, and then there's God in the midst of that. He goes on in verse 25, "The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man that he bear the yoke in his youth. Let him sit alone in silence when it is laid on him. Let him put his mouth in the dust. There may yet be hope. Let him give his cheek to the one who strikes, and let him be filled with insults. For the Lord will not cast off forever. But though he cause grief, he will have compassion, according to the abundance of his steadfast love. For he does not afflict from his heart or grieve the children of men." Jeremiah is saying, deal with your sin. Deal with these things that God has brought wrath, for the reasons God has brought wrath, and lay that before God so that you may experience God's grace and mercy that he gives. So in this time of where we are now, in this pandemic that's taken place, and you may wonder, I don't know why this is taking place or what is God doing? And we've talked about God being in complete control and sovereign. Use this time to deal with sin in your life. Maybe things that are separating you from God, where you need to be broken on your knees and deal with your sin and experience God's grace and mercy. Experience his faithfulness, that he does not cast us away. He has not forgotten about us. He knows our hearts. He knows our struggles, and he wants us to reach out to him. So I pray that during this time, these are special days where you grow close with God and seek him, and just may his will be done. And may God get the glory and the praise for all things.